Hi, I'm Allie, and I'm the pastoral apprentice at Holy Trinity. Many of us have been thinking more about our families and relationships lately than we usually do. We get an interesting take on this notion of family in today's Mass readings. In the Gospel, Jesus tells Nicodemus about the need to be born of the Spirit, which initially confused Nicodemus, who a few verses earlier asked if this actually meant coming back out of our mother's womb. But Jesus is talking about receiving new life in Him through baptism, which makes us all children of God, and therefore family with one another. We can get a better picture of what this family looks like in the Acts of the Apostles, where we hear how the community of believers was of one heart and mind, and they had everything in common, sharing their possessions according to need. Doesn't this sound like how an ideal family might function? Sharing generously with one another, knowing that one person's possessions really belong to the whole family. But in Acts, it wasn't blood relations that really mattered the most. Instead, the community knew that they were all united even more deeply by Christ. The way we experience our Christian family looks very different today, especially under our current circumstances. We aren't able to gather for worship, we can't come together for social visits, and we aren't supposed to even come within 6 feet of one another. We might wonder, is the same kind of community even remotely possible at this point? Right now, I'm about 1,600 miles away from my regular biological family. But I find that it isn't sitting at the same table that gives me the experience of being a member of that family. There's something deeper that ties us together, something that animates every call, video chat, and shared phone game, transforming those into experiences of family despite the distance. Likewise, our broader Catholic family remains united in ways that transcend physical proximity. Our faith tells us that both the physical and the spiritual are very important, and we can't be limited to the physical. One of my professors once pointed out that Jesus' physical healings aren't just impressive bodily cures. They're signs pointing us to the much more important gift of the spiritual healing that comes through faith. In the same way, I think physical experiences of community, like we saw in Acts, can point us to the more important spiritual connections that unite us more closely to God. When our community appears broken and scattered, as it might right now, we still have access to the deeper reality of Christian family that never goes away. We are still united through baptism as God's children. So maybe it isn't about how physically close we can get to one another, as important as that might be. Maybe our focus should be on how we can still come together spiritually to bring each other closer to God. Sure, that might be easier to do in person, but Christian relationships aren't limited to the physical, as we continue to learn from our loved ones and all the saints who have gone before us, whose love and spiritual presence remain very real forces in our lives. So let's continue praying for each other, calling each other, sending each other messages, and striving for a stronger spiritual community than ever. This is the season of celebrating the resurrection. May we be continually reminded that Jesus triumphs over all sin, death, isolation, and separation. Happy Easter, and thank you for continuing to be part of my Christian family even in all of these trials.